Hello there, I'm Aishwarya Kapoor with you with another edition of a World Panorama. Insights into the biggest international happenings across the globe this week coming up in the next 30 minutes. First up, a look at the headlines. Theresa May looks to find a compromise on Brexit after her deal is rejected by MPs by a record majority. Prime Minister survives a no-confidence vote to publish a new Brexit plan on Monday. 9 people arrested in Kenya after attack on a luxury hotel compound in capital Nairobi kills at least 21 people. All 5 militants who stormed the hotel complex eliminated. Al-Shabaab terrorist group claims responsibility. China and Canada relations sour further. China says Canadian Prime Minister should respect the rule of law after Trudeau criticizes a Canadian man's death sentence. And Greece Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras narrowly wins a confidence vote after coalition partner pulls out over a name change deal with Macedonia. Launches campaign to ratify the deal. The top story this week, British Prime Minister Theresa May's Brexit plan went down to a historic defeat in Parliament on Tuesday. The next day, she narrowly survived a vote of no confidence in her government. Now, this Monday, that is the 21st of January, she will have to tell Parliament what her plan B for Brexit is. And full debate and vote on the plan is scheduled for 29th of January. However, European Union nations are issuing emergency decrees to cope with the increasingly likely possibility that Britain will leave the bloc on 29th of March without a plan. A no-deal Brexit would shake up the rest of the continent in ways that many Europeans haven't even fathomed. Relief for British Prime Minister Theresa May as she survived a no-confidence vote in Parliament on Wednesday to remain in office. May won a narrow victory, 325 votes to 306 votes, on an opposition motion seeking to topple her government and trigger a general election.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased that this House has expressed its confidence in the government tonight. I do not take this responsibility lightly, and my government will continue its work to increase our prosperity, guarantee our security and to strengthen our union.
The vote of no confidence came a day after legislatures ripped up May's Brexit blueprint by rejecting the divorce agreement that she had negotiated with the EU over the last 2 years. That it would lose was widely expected, but the scale of the rout, 432 votes to 202, the biggest defeat for a government in British parliamentary history, was devastating for May's leadership and her Brexit deal.
This government has failed our country. It cannot govern, cannot command the support of most people facing the most important issue at the moment, which is Brexit. They failed again.
After surviving the no-confidence motion, May says that she is staying put. However, now it is back to Brexit. The Prime Minister has until Monday to come up with a new Brexit plan. And she has promised to consult with the senior lawmakers from across the political spectrum on her next moves. May called on MPs to put self-interest aside and work constructively together to find a way forward for Brexit. However, Labour Party that had introduced the no-confidence motion says that May must rule out a no-deal Brexit. May survives, but as far as Brexit is concerned, for the time being, it is not obvious what the next step is. May has to present a plan B to Parliament. That will mean reaching across the divide and appealing to people in both the Labour Party and the DUP to find a majority for something that May can take to the EU, which is not as easy as it sounds. If not, this stalemate will continue. The Prime Minister could also try to deliver a softer Brexit that would keep the UK closer to the European Union. The UK government may revoke or request an extension of Article 50 to extend the 29th of March deadline to another date. else, on 29th of March, the UK leaves with no deal.
I have to say it prolongs uncertainty for business, and the biggest concern that we have at the moment is the possibility of a no-deal Brexit, of a departure, the UK departing the EU without any agreed terms. Now, that could be very damaging and destabilising and could harm consumers and businesses both in the UK and in the EU.
But EU countries with close UK ties have already begun preparing for its departure on 29th of March without a deal. An EU official will now visit all 27 capitals to coordinate no-deal plans. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. On to the other top story this week. At least 21 people were killed when Somali militants stormed a luxury hotel compound in Kenyan capital Nairobi. Somalia-based Islamist group Al-Shabaab said that it was behind the attack, which triggered a 20-hour security operation. President Uhuru Kenyatta said that the siege ended with the 5 jihadist attackers eliminated. Kenya has been a target for Al-Shabaab since October 2011, when it sent its army into Somalia to fight the jihadist group. Gunfire and blasts heard at the compound in Westlands district of the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. The compound houses a luxury Duset D2 hotel as well as offices. Several people were killed as militants attacked the complex, which triggered a 20-hour security operation. The Somalia-based militant group Al-Shabaab said it was behind the attack.
As Commander-in-Chief, I want to commend the quick and effective response by all our fighting teams for neutralizing all the terrorists involved in the attacks. We have dealt with the threat decisively and shown our enemies and the world that we as a country are ready to deal with any threat to our nation.
The attack began at about 3 p.m. local time on Tuesday. The gunmen threw bombs at vehicles in the car park before entering the lobby, where one blew himself up. Then heavily armed militants entered the complex, firing indiscriminately, using bombs and automatic rifles to kill. As police arrived, cowering groups of civilians were escorted to safety by security forces throughout Tuesday night. Amid sporadic bursts of gunfire and the boom of explosions that continued well beyond dawn. Many people had spent hours hiding in their offices or in the bathrooms. Sporadic gunfire continued for hours after that, all clear, before President Kenyatta declared the incident over. End of the operation saw hundreds of people rescued and all 5 terrorists eliminated. 2 people believed to be linked to the attack were also arrested after raids on Wednesday.
We were trying to move out when the first explosion happened. So by the time we reached the last entrance to come out, then the gunshots are being aimed at us. So we could not tell where they're coming from, who is shooting them. So we just retreated and went back to the offices. We started hiding. So some people got in the toilets, other people are still hiding in the stores, and many people are in the offices under the desks.
I was just going in the toilets. When I came out, I just saw a lot of smoke. Even I didn't see even clearly. Okay, trying to look through the smoke. It's like only I see like a dead body, but the body was not complete, just in pieces.
Kenya has seen a number of terror attacks in recent years, most notably in areas close to the Somali border and in the country's capital. Al-Shabaab group is a militant Islamist group that opposes the Somali government but has also carried out attacks throughout East Africa. It is noteworthy that Kenya is part of a regional peacekeeping operation that supports the Somali government in its battle against Al-Shabaab. The group, which is linked with Al-Qaeda, said that it was acting to avenge the decision by US President Donald Trump to declare Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. Relations between China and Canada have further deteriorated after a Chinese court awarded death sentence to a Canadian convicted of drug smuggling. Robert Schellenberg was initially given a 15-year jail term in November last year, but on Monday the court increased this to death penalty, leading Canada to accuse China of arbitrarily applying a death sentence. However, China has hit back and accused Canada of double standards. The ruling has worsened a diplomatic row between the two countries, which has been escalating since Canada arrested an official of China's Huawei telecoms giant last month. Diplomatic feud between China and Canada has escalated. This after a Chinese court sentenced a Canadian man to be executed for drug smuggling. Pale and grim-faced, Robert Lloyd Schellenberg sat stoically as he listened. He had already been sentenced to more than a decade in a Chinese prison, serving a 15-year sentence. But at the retrial, the court in Liaoning province sided with the prosecutors who argued that the punishment was too light. The court's new execution order was a shocking escalation.
Defendant Robert Lloyd Schellenberg has been given the death penalty for drug smuggling, and all of his personal property will be confiscated.
The resentencing has aggravated already sour relations between Beijing and Ottawa. China argues that the case is a simple matter of sentencing a felon according to the Chinese code, but for the rest of the world, including Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, the decision is far more sinister.
As a government, we actually strengthened the policy that requires the Canadian government to always intercede on behalf of Canadian facing the death penalty anywhere in the world. We will continue to do that as we have in this case. But I will say it is of extreme concern to us as a government, as it should be to all our international friends and allies, that China has chosen to begin to arbitrarily apply death penalty in cases facing, as in this case, facing a Canadian.
The relations between the two countries have already been tense since Canada's arrest of a Chinese executive at the request of the United States in December. Huawei Chief Financial Officer Meng Wanzhou was taken into custody by Canadian authorities to face extradition to the US over alleged Iran sanction violations. The incident was followed by China's detention of two Canadian citizens on suspicion of endangering state security and now Schellenberg's resentencing. Canada alleges that its arrest of Huawei's CFO Meng has led to Beijing taking revenge, initiating legal action against Canadian citizens. But Chinese government is refusing to back down.
If it were inhuman and improper to sentence Schellenberg to death for trafficking 222 kilograms of drugs, then is it human and proper to let drugs take away more lives? We will not allow drug traffickers of any country to harm the lives of the Chinese people.
Ottawa has formally applied for clemency for Schellenberg, as it usually does for citizens condemned to death abroad. The United Nations said that it was opposed to the death penalty, apart from exceptional circumstances. Australia says it is deeply concerned by the case. The United States has also backed Canada's claim that the death sentence awarded to Schellenberg was politically motivated. However, China says it is not worried in the slightest by mounting international concern over the death sentence. Clearly, the Schellenberg sentencing adding yet another nail in the coffin of cold ties between China and Canada. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. And in World Panorama, time to take a very short break here. More international news stories coming up ahead. On the other side, stay tuned.
Tales that inspire. Stories of social change. A salute to diversity. Promoting public discourse. Events that motivate. Inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries.
Welcome back after the break. As partial US government shutdown stretches to nearly a month, bickering between Republicans and Democrats has increased. Donald Trump denied House Speaker Nancy Pelosi a plane for a trip to Afghanistan, a tit-for-tat retaliation apparently in response to Pelosi suggesting that the president reschedule his State of the Union address due to shutdown. Meanwhile, 8 lakh federal employees continue to work or sit at home without pay. Several government websites have crashed, services are grinding to a halt, and the economic toll has begun to mount.
I have to give a message to a New Yorker who at this moment is creating horrible pain for the people of his hometown. President Trump, you shut down the government over a fake crisis at the border, but now you're causing a real humanitarian crisis in New York City and in cities and towns all over the United States of America. This has to end.
With the U.S. partial government shutdown entering its 29th day this Saturday, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio has already sounded alarm bells about the fallout from the shutdown of the federal government. He said while New York City has thus far been able to dip into its coffers to stave off problems in paying out benefits, come March 1st, there will be no early benefit funds available.
We are now entering nothing less than a full-blown crisis that is about to have massive effects on the people in New York City. And it is a crisis with no end in sight.
In Washington, D.C., vendor Mohammad Bada too is feeling the heat. He has been operating his food truck since 2014, but the ongoing shutdown drastically slashed his sales in a month that is already bad for business.
I've seen bad days, but you know, in a week, sometimes you have 1 day bad, 2 days bad, but not the whole week. Especially this week, it's really, really, really bad.
At the Atlanta International Airport, like many other American airports, passengers wasting long time due to more absence of security check employees. Around 8 lakh government employees are being affected by the current shutdown, but around 4,20,000 of them are occupying core positions and are demanded to continue their work even without getting paid, including 50,000 security check employees for airports.
That's crazy. You have people who have to get to work, business trips, and they're missing their flights because of the delays of the government. I think it's unfair. You have families who have bills, have families who have to take care of their families, and with the government shutdown, I don't think that's right. Nobody should be working for free.
However, President Trump has insisted that he is not going to compromise with Democrats to end the government shutdown. Rather, the political squabbling has become worse. Trump on Thursday stopped House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi from using a military plane for an overseas trip. This in a tit-for-tat after the Democratic leader's suggestion he postponed the State of the Union address during the partial government shutdown.
That we would have the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, the entire Congress of the United States, House and Senate, the Supreme Court, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Cabinet of the United States, did I say that, and the Diplomatic Corps, all in the same room. This requires hundreds of people working on the logistics and the security of it most of those people are either furloughed or victims of the shutdown, the president's shutdown. But that isn't the point. The point is security.
Earlier, Trump also had cancelled his visit to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland over the shutdown. 29 days already to the US government shutdown and no end in sight. Trump wants $5.7 billion of congressional funding to build a wall on the US-Mexico border, but Democrats have refused. Media reports say that polls show that most Americans blame him for the government shutdown, and his advisors are warning him of its negative effects on the economy. But Trump says, over time, the country will not remember the shutdown, but it will remember that he staged a fight over his insistence that the southern border be protected. The zero-sum battle drags on. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
The Macedonia's parliament this week passed an amendment to the constitution to rename the country Republic of North Macedonia. The name change was agreed in a deal between Macedonia and Greece to put an end to a 27-year-old dispute between the neighboring countries. Now, resolution of the name issue could unblock Macedonia's bids to join NATO and the European Union. However, the deal also needs to be ratified by the Greek parliament. Now, there have been protests in Greece over name change deal. Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras on Wednesday survived a confidence vote after row over the deal sunk his 4-year-old coalition. Shakespeare said in Romeo and Juliet, "What's in a name?" Well, a lot. A row has erupted in Greece over a landmark name deal with Macedonia. The turmoil came after Macedonian Prime Minister Zoran Zaev succeeded in mustering parliamentary support to push through the historical name change accord. "81 lawmakers in the 120-seat parliament voted in favour. The accord will see the Balkan state being rechristened the Republic of North Macedonia. The name change would mean that the country can now become part of NATO and the European Union. Greece had vetoed Macedonia's entry to both organizations, saying that the use of name Macedonia implied territorial claims to a Greek province of the same name.
It is important that my country is a part of Europe and NATO.
However, under the deal agreed last year between Greece and Macedonia over name change, the Greek parliament must also ratify the accord. On Sunday, Greece's Defence Minister Panos Kaminos resigned in protest over the deal. Greek opponents of the agreement say that the Macedonia's new name, the Republic of North Macedonia, represents an attempt to appropriate Greek identity. Kaminos' party, Independent Greeks Party, props up the government of Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras, leading Tsipras to call the confidence motion. Tsipras won the vote on Wednesday, Parliament giving him 151 votes, meeting the threshold he required in the 300-member assembly.
The critical issue is upgrading the role and status of the geographical strength and value of our country in the Balkans and the Eastern Mediterranean. And I am certain that what we are doing is correct.
Winning the confidence of Parliament means that Tsipras can now proceed with the ratification of the name deal. The deal was initiated by Tsipras last June together with his Macedonian counterpart Zoran Zaev and is known as the Prespa Agreement. But the agreement has created controversy and led to dozens of protests across Greece, including a new demonstration in Athens set for Sunday. Thousands of Greeks have been protesting against the use of the word Macedonia in the new name, considering that Macedonia in North Greece was home to the Greek king Alexander the Great. It will be interesting to see then whether Greek Parliament will ratify the name deal. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. Let's take a look at some more international news stories in Globe Watch. The White House is considering former PepsiCo chief executive Indira Nooyi for the position of the new World Bank president. According to reports, Nooyi, who stepped down as PepsiCo's chief last August, has been courted as an administration ally by Ivanka Trump, who is playing a role in the selection of a nominee. The decision-making process for the top post at the World Bank is in its initial stages, and early frontrunners and candidates often fall off the radar or withdraw from consideration before the president makes its ultimate pick. It is, however, unclear whether Nooyi would accept the nomination if chosen by the Trump administration. China is expanding its access to strategic foreign ports like the Pakistan's Gadawar port and Sri Lanka's Hambantota port to pre-position the logistic framework necessary to support the growing presence of its military in the Indian Ocean and beyond. According to the congressionally mandated report released by the U.S. Department of Defense on the increasing Chinese military power, the People's Liberation Army's efforts to obtain access to commercial ports in Africa, the Middle East and South Asia would align now with its future overseas logistic needs and meet its evolving naval requirements. Record-breaking heat wave struck several parts of Australia. The extreme heat wave has afflicted the nation since last Saturday, causing wildlife deaths, bushfires and a rise in hospital admissions. Australia's Bureau of Meteorology said that preliminary readings showed daily national temperature highs of 40 degrees Celsius. Forecasters have compared the conditions to nation's worst heat wave in 2013, where the mercury soared to 39 degrees Celsius for 7 consecutive days. And finally, how do you like the idea of plants growing on the moon? Well, China National Space Administration says that the seeds taken up to the moon by China's Chang'e 4 mission have sprouted. The sprout has emerged from a lattice-like structure inside a canister. It marks the first time any biological matter has grown on the moon. Now, plants have been grown on the International Space Station before, but never on the moon. Remember, Chang'e 4 is the first mission to land on and explore the moon's far side, facing away from Earth. It touched down on 3rd of January. So take a look at the China's mission on moon and the picture of first ever tender shoot that has grown on board the lunar lander as I take your leave. See you next week in another episode of World Panorama. Bye-bye.